Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. You're very welcome to the programme. And where we are is we're continuing here in AHOGHILLS. And you can see the lovely Church of Ireland there, the parish church and its tower. Absolutely beautiful. And there's a connection here with the 1859 revival in this church. This church is called St. AHOGHILLS, and it's the Church of Ireland. Now, it was constructed in 1863, and the foundation stone was laid by Mrs. O'Neill of Shane's Castle, and she was the wife of the Reverend William O'Neill, and she laid it on the Tuesday, the 4th of August, 1863. So this church has a big connection with the 1859 revival. You can see the lovely tower there. Because this church building was actually birthed out of the revival, because the Church of Ireland, the old church down the road, wasn't big enough to hold the new converts, and so they had to build this church up on top of the hill. And so it's a fantastic church. You can see another wee building there belonging to the church. And so the Reverend Edward Hudson, he was a rector of this parish, and he died in 1804. And then the Reverend Alfred T. Lee, he was another rector here. He was installed on the 12th of July 1858 until the 1st of November 1872. So I'm just wondering, did he miss the 12th of July celebrations? He could well have. And then the Reverend Robert Alexander, he was Archdeacon of Down from 1814 to 1828. And then he resigned to become the rector of AHOGHILLS. And he was actually married twice, so he was. Beautiful. And you can see a couple of heads here. Don't know who these heads are of, but certainly very skillful and detailed, as you can see. That looks a wee bit like a crown he's got on his head. Don't know who that gentleman is either. And you can see the lovely doorway there as well. Beautiful, isn't it? So the Reverend Alexander, he was actually off Portglenone House, and it used to be Portglenone Castle, but it's a mansion house today. And of course, it's actually a monastery, but it's a working monastery because the Cistercian monks are in there. So the Reverend Robert Alexander, he died in 1840, so he did, and that was on the 25th of July, and he was 50 years of age. Don't know what them slits there are for. And he was born, of course, on the 19th of June, 1788. So this church has a big connection then with the 1859 revival. I suppose it's a monument to that because it was birthed out of that revival. And it's a wee bit like, I suppose, Martin Luther and also Pope Leo X. Pope Leo X, when he came to Rome, he wanted to leave it more glorious when he was leaving Rome. And so he wanted to rebuild St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, but that costs money to do. And so what did he do? He sold an indulgence, and he commissioned a monk, Tetzel. And Tetzel was a Dominican friar, and he went round selling these indulgences. And of course, the coffers then were coming in, and he had a wee jingle that went with his sale pitch. As soon as the coin hits the bottom of the chest, the soul flies off to heavenly rest. Of course, the people were queuing up to buy these indulgences to get forgiveness of their sin. But what does the scripture say? Peter says that it's through the blood of Christ that we're forgiven. and it's not by silver or gold. But just as the Basilica in Rome is a memorial to the Protestant Reformation, so is this church here a memorial to the 1859 revival here in AHOGHILLS. So you can check out those wee videos in Port Glenone, because I cover a wee bit about the history of the Reverend Robert Alexander. So we've had a great day here today. We had a beautiful service this morning, and then we've done a wee bit of church history, me and the minister of Brookside Church, and then his wife made us a lovely lunch, so it was fantastic. And so it was good to get the fellowship, and as I say, I was preaching in Brookside this morning, but it's also not only good to get the fellowship, it's also good to get a wee bit of recording done afterwards, which I always enjoy. A lovely church, this. The only thing is it can be a wee bit blowy. And if you're wondering how many dead people are buried in here, well, I can assure you that all of them. But there's plenty more room for more, as you can see. And you've got a mixture of the old and the new, because you have modern graves in here, but then and there'll be more coming, of course. But you've also got then the 19th century graves as well. So a wee bit of a mixture. So the Reverend William Moody, the Presbyterian minister up in Brookside, that's where I was preaching today. He's doing a fantastic job here in AHOGHILLS. And it's a good crowd goes to his church, so there is. There was a good turnout this morning, and I was told that a lot of them were on holidays, they weren't all there. There's a lovely wee summer seat, isn't it? You can see the church up on the hill there. So this is the grave here that I want to show you. This is of the minister of the church here, a rector, a canon. You can see the church in the background there. And it says, Canon William Henry Askins Lee, 34 years, rector of this parish, died 28th of March 1954. And then also his wife, Frances Anna Lee, she died the 13th of June 1950. So that's a former minister of this church, former rector. There's the church up on the hill, as you can see. So thanks for watching, and God bless.